informative and contains my opinion and understanding of the subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hi guys. I don't have anything set up today, you guys. I have like no big thing because I think I'm going to shut my camera off again because when I played like the thing back, it's definitely, I think, better when my face is in it too. I feel like it's distracting. I guess both are okay, but maybe I'll do a little bit of both, but I'm going to get right to it. I have everything already up and ready to go. It better still be there. It is. Let's do it. I'm going to make it real short, this intro, because I've already been working for 13 hours. Also, tomorrow night, I am going to be streaming with the Drunk Turkey Show. So everybody tune in for that. Thank you, Ava. Oh, my daughter's such a good kid. Okay. Oh my gosh, tell me it just went backwards, you guys. I swear to gosh. Oh no, it didn't. Why did it just do that? I don't know if anybody was able to look at that real quick, why it was up for a second and see that I had everything up on the right page. Oh my God. All right, hold on. Let me just try one more thing. Unbelievable. I literally had everything up. Oh, look, there goes a screenshot of Mackenzie. That's not what I meant. All right, let's try this again. One last time. I noticed, so from last time, one of the things that I learned is that I need to let it download before I just start like playing with it. So I'm letting it download for a second and now it's downloaded. Let me try this again. So it's downloading. Well, it is downloaded, but now it's like it catches the pages up. I tried to figure out what I was doing wrong. So it didn't happen again. All right, this is what I'm going to do. If it lets me, I don't know if it's going to let me. Hopefully it does. But if it lets me, that is so unbelievable. I feel like it's a conspiracy. Oh, no, I think it might let me. I promise I won't say you're a conspiracy if you let me. All right, fingers crossed, you guys. Fingers crossed. Hang on. So I don't even want to say it until I get there. Okay, I'm just going to start from here. So my daughter Gianna just says I'm funny, but it's inappropriate. But anyway, so this is the deal. I wanted to start at the new year because it was letting me get to 2022, which remember you guys last time, it would not let me go to 2022. It kept on going back to 2020, not even 2021. So I'm like, oh my gosh, why it lets me go to 2022? I'm reading these because a lot of people are reading these from the very beginning. Oh, I thought that just said 2020. I almost cried. It does. Hold on. Oh, no, that's 2021. All right, hold on. I'm trying to get to New Year's Day. Oh, how about I share the right thing? Oh, no, if I share the right thing, is it going to stop? All right, fingers crossed. Oh, my God, I'm afraid to do this. Share. All right, I think it might stay. Hold on, no, it's not letting me. It's 24. Why? I swear it's a conspiracy, you guys. The only thing I could do is not show you guys the text messages. That's the only way I feel like it's going to let me do this. So how about this? This is what I'll do. I have an idea. I will keep my picture up, like my video, and then I'm going to read instead. And then that way I could do what I wanted to do and go to 2022 because again, there's a lot of people, not a lot of people, a few people I know that are reading these. And I don't know that I've seen many up to 2022. So I'm just going to do it this way so that we could do that. All right, hold on. I'm almost there again. Oh, I went a little bit over. Hold on. I'm at 12:31. I should just stay here. Hold on. All right, I'm just going to read it, I guess. Yeah. All right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go. All right, ready? So she says, all right, I have it blown up nice and big. Okay, I think we're good, you guys. I don't think so, he says. What just happened? It just went back to, that's so weird. This is unbelievable, but I think it still has the other ones downloaded. I think I said it was 24. I don't know why this is happening, and I wonder if it's happening to anyone else. I literally was like reading some of these earlier. I'm just going to leave it where it's at. Don't play around anymore. Hold on, I'm almost there. I apologize. At least I know for next time. All right, we have like a couple more. I'm up to 12, 14. I'm getting there. Is it going to let me? It's going to let me. I just have to get back to the right spot. I apologize. What I'm going to do is after this is over or tomorrow or something, when I'm not dead, I will make sure that I put in there like where the intro ends and text messages start. All right, let's see. I think I'm just going to have to try and read these from far away. It's like the only way they're going to let me do it. So we're going to start wherever it's going to let me, which is 127. No, I want to go to 11. You guys, I'm persistent. All right, I think I did it. Hold on. All right, we're at 11. I did it. Okay, so he says, yeah, so what time Jared wants to know? And she says maybe around 6:30 or 7. So this is on 1/1/2022. So this is the year of the crash. So this is 6 months before. One of the things I want you guys to take notice when I read these is the change where we did yesterday and the day before. We were in 2020. Now we're in 2022. I want you to see the transformation, because there is a method to my madness. I'm not just documenting these. I'm doing this too so that the next video I do, I can use my own voice type thing and not have to, use somebody else's. Okay, so she writes words out. And again, if somebody's like, oh my gosh, we can't see what you're reading, that is because whenever I go over to it, it switches me back to 2020. So if I want to read these ones from 2022, afterwards, I'm going to have to put my voice up with like a video of some sort. I'll figure it out. Anyway, let's go. People texting me asking if I'm okay, says Mackenzie. I feel so bad. He says, who's texting what? I've been effed up over this thing. I feel super bad. She says, Abby, with a last name, asking if I'm okay. I feel so bad. He says, I feel like I could have done something. She said, I want to talk to her parents. We did the most we could. He said, don't right now. I'd wait till she gets better. So you guys, this might be, well, let me see before I say it. We tried, shouldn't confirm any info because who knows how people are going to act. Mackenzie says, for real, I haven't told anyone but main people. I'm not telling anyone that's asking. He says, I feel so bad and I hope her face isn't all effed up. And she says, oh my gosh, what are you doing? So now it's 7:30 in the morning. So this was the night before. So on New Year's Eve night, I believe this is when a girl fell down the steps at Mackenzie's. And they were trying to say after all this that like she pushed the girl down, but I think it was found that that is not what happened. The girl was at the top of the steps or something, and I don't know. But when she had like White Claws or something or alcohol, and they think that that weighed her down, I have no idea. So, but I think this is what they're referring to. So we're at 7:43 p.m. on 1/1. So she says, what are you doing? He says, about to eat some food. She says, where? He says, here. What are you doing now? She says, I slept. Now I'm here. He says, where? I might just come cash if that's what you about to do. She says, Nugget, I need a thigh massage. Come. That's funny only because I listened to a newer jail call, and she told her girlfriend in jail that they call each other Nugget. I'm like, I've never heard that. And of course, it's one of the first things I read. He says, I'm I'm tired. Do you think I want to do that right now? Maybe a little. And she says, yes, you do. She's starting to get like real, I don't know. He says, maybe. I just want to eat and edible and sleep for like 12 hours. She says, okay, I'm going to bed. And this is at 10:46 on New Year's Day. He says, when do you go back to school? She says, I don't know, for real. Let me ask why. He says, I want to go to Aurora Farms. That probably got some deals right now. She says, I don't work all week. He says, we could go tomorrow or Sunday. She says, my mom is saying I might go back to school tomorrow. What the F? He says, I was thinking that. I mean, holidays are over. She says, I don't know. He says, ask someone. Are those your Adidas pants on my bed and pink pants on my floor? She says, yes. I bled. Ugh. And then she sends a picture of her wearing a face mask, which, yeah, I guess. Okay, so he says, okay, bet. I don't want some random pants on my bed. And she said, so then she doesn't answer anything. So now this is 1/2, so it's the next morning of 2022. And we are at like 12:30 in the afternoon. She says, what are you doing? He says, was about to take a bath, but I don't have any hot water. So then we go to, oh yeah, it's right after. She says, what are you doing? What the F? Me and Grace want to go in the pool, like pole. So she says pool and then corrects it and says pole. They want to go in the pole. I might go get pole, but Adam, to be serious, wash the stuff out of the blender before they make my shit. I want a good smoothie, and pulp low key is the best, but so nasty. And then she says, like, I'll be a bitch. I don't care. But can we go on the pole? He said, yeah, nothing as good as pulp so far. Yeah, you could go. Me and Sean thinking Kendall needs a something bag, a love bag. And Kenzie says, what the F? Are you slow? Never text me that again. He said, why? It was a joke. We feel bad. She said, joke and feel bad in the same sentence? Weird. He says, why are you mad? She says, I don't get too comfortable being nice to other bitches because I can shut that down right now. And he says, the girl literally almost died in my house. I feel terrible. So it was at his house. I feel I should do something. That bag is a joke, but for real. Something type shit, she gonna be effed up forever because of that. Kenzie says, oh, he should have never wrote that stuff. Kenzie says, you think she wants an effing Louis Vuitton bag? Oh, that's what we wrote up there. So where I said I didn't know, wait, let me go back real quick to see what it says. Now that I can know what it says, I can put it together. He says, me and Sean thinking Kendall need a Louis Vuitton bag. That's what that said. So he said, look, okay, you sound kind of selfish. That girl is almost dead. Look, it's not about being nice to the other girls. It's about the fact that a girl almost died here, and I feel I should do something. Like, bruh, if I like some random, if like some random dude almost died in my house, I definitely give that MFer as much bud or some sneakers as I can when he's out, because the brain is going to be effed up. That's the last thing going through my head. She's in ICU. I feel bad. And then Mackenzie says, or you could just like pay for her medical bills. Or like I said earlier, we're going to buy her a shit ton of crystals. But of course, all you care about is money. Like, why would you buy $1,000 bag when you can just help with medical bills? Me and Grace are coming soon. He says that's still about money. It's the gesture, not the bag. I didn't mean to even get a bag. And she says, crystals aren't money. He said, that's just a reference. They cost money. Medical bills, too. I didn't mean I was actually going to get her a bag. I told you that 3 times. Don't come for me like you're being selfish. She's almost dead. You have everything in the world right now compared to her. Mackenzie says, the fuck? Nah, Grace already's on the way. And he said, nah, I'm 020. Oh, I'm out, I think he says. And then he says, top. She says, I don't care. Answer now. He said, come then. She said, okay, cool. He said, just don't be starting shit. She said, we need to talk when Grace leaves. Since it's like this. He said, really? About what? If it's for real, some shit about our relationship, because I said Kendall deserves something nice, I'm not talking to you because that's just crazy as F. She says, you're talking to me. He's questioned, you're talking to me. He says, tell me exactly what it's about or I'm not talking to you. With all that going on, I'm not going to argue with you about some bullshit. If you don't get it, then I'm not going to keep explaining it. Like, I'm stressed out. Chill on me. And then he says, Joe left Impractical Jokers. And she says, what the F? And he said, did you use scissors to pick out the bong? And she said, maybe. I don't know. And he said, it's cool. Just don't do it next time. When are you coming? And she says, here. So this is 1-2 at, so, the second and of 2022, and it's at 1:50 p.m. Then at 1:52, oh, okay, let me make sure it's unlocked. Someone left a fast charger. She says, I know, good. And then she says, karma from my birthday. And then he says, LOL. I was thinking it's like not some rando, though, like Nat or one of her friends. But yeah, I'll take it anyway. Someone did take your shit and no one was there. And she says, yeah, that's what I'm saying. He says, whose shoes are at my house? And she said, Kenna. He said, 2 pairs, I think. Let me check again. She said, send a pic. He said, never mind. It's Karina's. They're gross AF. And she said, Lexi's texting me, asking what happened. He says, what videos do you got from New Year's? Send them. Lexi, ? And she said, why? And yes. And he said, probably heard from Morgan. That's her old best friend that he supposedly cheated on her with. She says, oh, true. And then she says, did you see the GoFundMe? And then sends him a picture of the GoFundMe. And she says, honestly, you're weird as F for being like that. Like, there's going to keep being problems if that's how you're going to act. That's honestly disgusting me. And he says, I ain't going to out my name on here either if I do. I'm going to just do anonymous. I'm not trying to be on trial. She says, I would happily write your name on something I did, but I guess I wouldn't know. Then say that in capital letters, she writes. Don't talk to me for real, she says. Figure your shit out. He says, you hung up on me ASAP. Why would I put my name on it? Like, chill. And she says, babe, I need to get Karina's shoes. And he says, when? And she said, never mind. There's a rumor that there's a video of her falling. And then she sends a screenshot of someone's text messages. And then he said, so sad. And she said, I know. They're asking for footage on cameras. I'm not going to give it. And he said, what camera? Oh my God. He said, I just tell them there's no cameras. She says, I told her there was cameras. People know that there was cameras. If I lie about that and they just found out, then it would just not be good. And there's nothing to hide. Does the footage save me? Or does the footage save, it says. And then he says, I would just say there was only one camera and it wasn't anywhere near it. And she says, well, I just got off the phone with Kendall's cousin. And he says, because really only because really the only camera recording was the one from my room. She says, I told her there was one in the kitchen and one in the hallway. I'll just tell her that we only had 2 of them armed, or that you did. And he said, just tell them that the cameras fell and only one was recording, and it's from the back bedroom where no one goes. I would do more. I don't know, because for real, who knows what they're going to try and get out of me. I feel like people are going to try to blame me. And she says, I will tell her that the cameras kept falling. And he says, I just tell her that they all fell, so only one was recording. Yeah, I check. I have no videos from the kitchen camera. Meanwhile, do you guys think, put it in the comments, because I can't see right now, I'll read it later, but do you guys think that there was, because there was cameras, do you think he's just saying it didn't record? And did he delete it? And she said she's going to ask for the footage of all of her falling. And he says, I only have footage from my bedroom and a little from the dining room. Just check them all. I can check the basement camera. Hold up. And she says, look at them. And he says, I didn't catch anything. I'll show you. I'm going to ask my mom if I should be sending the video or talking to anyone, because the mom's a lawyer. And she says, okay, please. And he said, I'll let you know what's good after I talk to her. She says, okay, which is smart, right? So then there's pictures of text messages that are too little to read. She says, I'm not going to text her. He says, yeah, I'm going to ask my mom. I wouldn't communicate with anyone. That's what my mom's saying. No pictures, no anything to them at all. And don't talk or tell anything to anyone else. I would just tell everyone you're done getting involved. And she said, say that. And then there's a text message of like a picture of a text message. He said, just don't communicate. She said, it's just going to look really bad. And he said, or say that you're done communicating. Who cares, for real? Everything you say is probably just going to incriminate me. He's talking about himself. Wow. Like, we shouldn't have confirmed cameras. Yup, homeowners could be liable for the fall. I knew they were trying to F me. They're going to try and sue my mom. So scummy, honestly. They're doing this through all that going on. I wouldn't talk to anyone. I hope you didn't say anything else that could incriminate me. And she said, I didn't say anything bad except the cameras. And he says, don't say anything else. She says, I'm not. Something was last. Oh, what if she texts me again? But this looks bad for real. And Dom says, okay, you're going to have to show me everything you text to anyone. Mackenzie says, okay, LL. And he says, they're suing my mom, babe. Delete snaps and shit. She says, they are? How? How do we know? And there's text messages. He said, there's no other reasons they'd be doing this. They want money. They're starting a GoFundMe and suing my mom. Like, what the F? And she said, I'm going to keep chat with Marina saved until you read it, because I don't know what we need and what we don't. He said, delete anything admitting what happened. Meanwhile, as he's writing it, oh my God. She says, I will. He says, make sure. Meanwhile, we're all reading this 6 months after, unfortunately, his death. But it just shows that they could go back and get the Cellbrite data. He says, make sure anyone that was there, mainly that we trust, doesn't talk about it. Like Kendra and shit. And Mackenzie says, you can FaceTime me if you want. I'm waiting for my lash appointment. He said, I'm at the Wingstop with Blair and an Astroworld hoodie. She said, where is that? I'm right by one. He said, I'll FaceTime you in a little bit. Parma. She says, in Brooklyn. Bruh, where are you at? And he says, maybe I'm by Brooklyn. Hold up. And then she sends a picture of a car, like the inside of a car, but it looks like, I think she was taking a picture of outside. And then he says one back and she says, is that it? Laughing my ass off. And he said, no, that's a different one. I'm next to a Peta. And she said, I'm 12 minutes from you. He said, I wish that'd be lit. And she said, my friend works there. He says, I just go chill with you. And then she says an attachment, and he says, Plata? And she says, yes, I think so. He says, yeah, you're right around the corner. I wish I knew you'd be over here. I would have told you to go to that one. And she says, tell them to come. And he said, we're waiting for the food. And she says, gay. I hate that. And then she says, Faith needs bud. He says, one sec. She says, babe, want to go to Lucas? And he says, when? We can go later. I got sales. And she said, when, babe? The F? Tell me what time we're going now. And he said, I'm sick again. And then she sends a picture of her face and then another picture of her face. And she's like sticking her tongue out or something. And he said again. And she said, nah. And then sends a whole bunch of pictures of text messages, which I told you guys, I have like 1 million gigabytes of information from this case. I have the entire case thing. So I will go back and see if I can fill in the blanks, like where, because I have screenshots of text messages and there is data underneath that I could probably pair up with the pictures. So then she says, do you want to come lay with me? My eyes hurt really bad. And he said, you didn't go to school? And she says, I just left and went home. My eyes hurt and I'm super tired and stressed. And he says, I would, but I'm late AF because I spilled egg yolk on my clothes. Pretty salt. It was a pair of subs too. And she says, no way. What the F? Does an egg stain? And he said, yeah, washing it right now. I don't know, but I have to get it out because it's like thick. So either way, I got to wash them. And she says, that's effed. I'm hungry. He says, me too. I didn't even eat my food because I was cleaning my clothes off. Then she sends a picture wearing a tan balaclava. It's like tweed. Oh, she looks scary in it. And he says, then I just ended up throwing them in the washer. Babe, you need to just take a break from the lashes so then you can get them when you really want to have them on. And she says, will you get me Starbucks if you're not going to come cuddle with me, babe? Then, and he says, babe, I'm so behind already. And I'm literally still washing egg yolk out of my jeans. I'm not trying to be on another hour late to all my people. She says, okay, babe. He said, what should I do? Just put on some and put on the other clothes back on later or just get a whole new outfit right now. And she says, up to you. I'm wearing a tracksuit if you want to twin with me. And Marina and Maddie text me and the pics. And he said, what pics? And then he questions about Maddie texting the pics. And he said, I can wear my polo tracksuit. And she says, of the stairs. He says it's white, black, and red though. Oh my God, you guys. And then she sends an attachment with her balaclava face part down so you could see. It literally looks like she has on like a party hat. He says Karina has pics of the stairs. And then she says, read the F. They are asking me for it. And he said, oh, well, yeah, just don't answer. Or say why. I don't know. For real, better just not answer. And don't tell me to read when you don't have proper grammar. Well, wait, you guys, I just have to tell you. He writes, and don't tell me to read when you, like a you, not Y-O-U, don't have proper grammar. Then he says, could you please make me some tea with ginger and stuff? And she says, I'm in bed about to sleep. I got you when I see you, babe. Get me Starbucks, she says. He says, damn, okay. You guys, this is like different than before. Yesterday and the day before, he was very like ignoring her. And remember, she would say that he wrote that he didn't respond enough, that his responses were dry because they were like 1 or 2 words. Now we're seeing a huge change. So she sends him a text of like a screenshot, and he said, they should tax the orphans. What? She says, he had to have a misspelling. She says, Kendra just has a mad attitude. And then she said, no, I meant she just gave me mad attitude. And then she says, Luca today, we need to call and make sure it's open. He said, I think he meant bet. Let me see what all got going on. Like, he really has gall to say about her grammar. She says, let me know. I need Lucas. I need it. And he said, not a better restaurant, it seems like. And she says, there isn't a better one, like for real. Maybe Hyde Park, but that's always closed. He says, yeah, do you know why? She said, no. And then she says, Karina texted me again about the stairs. And he says, ooh, what the F? You want to go to Aurora Farms? And she said, yes. The cops want to talk to me, she says. He said, who said that? And she says, they left my parents a voicemail. You guys, I did not know all of this. He said, tell the cops you'll speak with your lawyer first, and then they can talk to your lawyer. And she said, they're going to find out what they want to talk about. Then we'll decide if we need a lawyer or not. He's questioned what she said. You don't have to say a single word to the cops, babe. You are not getting arrested. You are not getting prosecuted. Literally nothing is happening in your Miranda. You guys, he really has the gall to say about our grammar. Your Miranda rights, it says anything you say or do will be used against you. So right now, you did say anything. I think he means anything you say or do. So don't say or do anything, because it will be used against you. And then he starts correcting, didn't, not did it. And she says, can we go to Lucas today? And he says, is it even open? She says, look. So she tells him to look. And he says, wow, it says open yesterday and it wasn't. And they're not open till 5. So we can't even call. Let me know what you do. I was thinking we shop at Aurora a little, then go out to eat there. We'd have to see what restaurants, though. We usually go to this Mad Jack's over there. That's pretty good. About to shower. Let me know what you want to do. That was all him, you guys. I feel like in the past 2 days, we didn't even read that much of him in like the whole thing. She says, I'm down to go. Let me get these lashes off. And he says, let me check when it's open and all. My mom said, don't talk to them. And if they keep bugging, she will be there when you do, because you have the right to counsel. And it's not a thing to say they have no reason or right to do anything. Check stores and make sure you want to go to Aurora too, because I don't want you to get mad that I'm just shopping for me. And I'd really want to go to Nike, Polo, Finish Line, Calvin Klein, maybe Adidas, and Banana Republic or something. And then she sends a picture, but I'm not sure what it's of. Her fingers are in it, but I'm not sure what it's of. And he says, are those your real lashes? Oh, there you go. It's her eyelashes. Oh, gosh. He says, are those your real lashes? Connect it? And she said, yes. And he said, my poor babe, please just leave them off for a while. And then she puts a frowny face and he says, babe, what do your nail and lash people use to book appointments? Do they have their own website or use an app or something? And she said, both. I'm going to get in the shower. Then do you want to go out to eat? And he said, yeah, where do you want to go? And she said, Lucas. And he said, make sure they're open. She said, I literally just said, I'm about to shower. Can you? I'm out. Did you even check? And he said, nah. I didn't even see the text. I've been doing shit. See, that seems like more like the old him. And then she says, how did you not see the text? I sent it 1 second after you sent me a text. And he said, probably because you sent it in like 1 second. Yeah, it's open. She said, did you call? Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. He said, yeah, it's open. She said, do you want to go now? And he said, yeah, can you drive? Let me check real quick. So I'm wearing something nice. Could we sell Cameron an eighth before we go, he says. And she said, who? And he said, Coulter. I already told her I would. I just dip. And she says, I don't care. Up to you. Up to you. He said, word. We get her on the way. What are you wearing? And she says, peeing. And then she sends a picture. And you could see, like, it looks like she has a Q-tip in her mouth and on a green, like, V-neck shirt with a zipper up the front. And she says, I'm peeing, hold on. And she said, I just said that, talking to the cops right now, she says. They called me at school. He said, no, tell them you're going to talk to a lawyer first. You have the right to counsel. Excuse me. She says, it's not bad. He's saying it's not bad. And then Dom says, you don't have to talk to them about anything, though. It doesn't matter. They're lying. You know they're liars. Please don't say anything to them in caps. Don't say anything and record. They should at least have your parents there before they talk to you. They're gross and unprofessional. And she said, my mom's on the phone recording. And he says, please don't say anything or admit anything. You shouldn't even say a word to them unless my mom is supervising. Just don't talk to them. You don't have to. And she says, they're asking for your number. I'm going to not give it. Should I give them your name? What the fuck do I say? Oh my God. And he says, what are you talking about to them? Question marks, like a bunch of them. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is so crazy. She says, Dom, shut the F up. And he says, so effing stupid. If you don't talk to them, they can't ask for anything. You're going to get my mom sued and F up my probation. Wow. I didn't even know he was on probation. She says, bruh. He says, you're effing us. And she said, you're making yourself look bad. The cops didn't care about the party. They only want to know the fall. And he says, it doesn't matter. Don't talk to them. Then I can't look bad. These are all like letters. I don't give an F. Ooh, you guys, I'm getting better at that. He says, you're making me look bad. You're effing us over. She said, I'm not, N-word. And he said, then why are you, that's terrible, by the way. She said, then why are you talking to the cops? That's literally the dumbest thing you can do. He also says, don't tell them anything. If you do, I'm going to be mad as F. Neither you or your mom should be telling them anything. And she said, I didn't tell them anything. Don't be mad. Don't be mean to me. The F, I'm not dumb. And he said, you're talking to the cops. So yes, you're effing dumb. That's the first thing me and my mom said to never do. Unless a lawyer is present. Oh my God, you guys. My brain just fast forwarded to his mom's conversation with the detectives. Wow. He said, which my mom said, never to talk to the cops unless there's a lawyer present, like question mark. And my mom is on the phone. He's saying, I'm not in trouble, stupid. And then Dom says, okay. And she doesn't have to talk over the phone. She doesn't have to talk to them at all. She shouldn't talk to them. And Mackenzie says, he's saying it's an accidental fall. And then Dom says, I'm for real mad as F. Stop talking to them. You're going to make me tweak. Y'all effing us over right now. I'm so pissed. And he's like just sending these one over another. Couldn't listen to the one thing I told you not to do. And she said, do I have to block you? Oh my God, you guys. Like, this is literally like the reverse of what we saw before. And he says, like, how can I trust y'all when you gonna just talk to the cops? No, you just got to stop talking to the cops. Then everything will be fine. You're talking to the cops isn't doing anything for anyone. Not for me, not for you. And then in capital letters, she writes, my mom is recording. And then he says, not for Kendall. And then she says, read, idiot, in capital letters. And then he writes, not for anyone. And then in capital letters, she writes, this is about me. And he said, I don't care. She says, we got issues. He says, she doesn't have to. And then Mackenzie says, stop teasing me. And he said, teasing you, Mark. Y'all so dumb for talking to the cops. You're so dumb. Literally the only thing you didn't have to do. I'm honestly so mad. You really can't keep the G code. Like, what the F? That's what he says to her. And then he says, send me the call when you're done. That they're still talking. And she said, he's on the phone with Emily. And then she sends a screenshot, but somebody like blacked out the bottom, but it's not like a redaction we see in BK. This is like a scribble, like as if somebody did it with their finger on the phone. He says, the cops, ? How did they get her number? Send the call. No, I'm not making it worse. The cops are lying to you. My mom has been a lawyer for 20 years. She knows what she's talking about. And Mackenzie says, bruh, you need to stop being dumb. Get your shit together and talk to your mom. And he says, I literally can't trust you. I was next to her when I was calling you earlier. She said not to talk to them unless she's there. They literally talk to you at school. So a lawyer and your parents weren't there. So they can get info. Like, pretty simple. And then all in capital letters, Mackenzie writes back, he literally said he can't do shit with any of the info because my mom wasn't present. And if he was going to press charges, I would be at the police station. Like, God damn. I don't care if you don't trust me, then don't. Like, damn. And he says, oh my God, you guys, this is crazy. I'm so glad I jumped forward. Then he says, Kenzie, you know nothing about any of this. When I tell you don't talk to the cops, don't talk to the cops. And then she sends a screenshot of text messages. And then he says, what if it was something bigger? No face, no case, no talk, no walk. OMG. If any of my mods are in here, because I can't see right now the thing, can somebody write down 24377? 24377. This is, oh my God, January 6, 2022 at 9:05 a.m. Literally, he says, no face, no case, no talk, no walk. Pretty simple. Nothing to look bad about if nothing's said. She's probably said something. She probably said some op shit. That's why she doesn't have recording. Oh. And then Mackenzie says, if your mom is calling and things, I did the right thing then. I'm going to believe her. Stop texting me. And she says, calm. And he said, well, we told you not to talk to the cops. You talked to the cops. I can't trust you. And she said, I just talked to your mom. And he said, but good. At least it's not bad. How long till you're here? He says. And she says, soon, 10. And then she sends a picture. Ew, it looks like she has a sty in her eye. But she's like doing this. You can see her whole thing. Thank you for writing that down, Tree. And then here I get, I think Sarah's somewhere too. Thank you guys. Here, and then she writes, babe, be low key for a while is what Mackenzie says. And he says, yeah, that. Is it because of something the cop said? ? And she says, no. And he said, are you playing Fortnite? And she said, yes. And he said, grinding. And she says, join. Me, not Nat. And then he says, me and Blair about to run 2K. Maybe after. She says, babe, are you out? And he says, what's WYM? Where, I don't know, something. Oh, I don't know. WYML. I'm like drawing a blank of somebody. And then he writes, my furniture comes tomorrow. And she says, I want Molly's. Can I just tell you guys that he writes tomorrow TMRW, but her grammar's bad. And then he says, that sounds good. And she says, babe, oh my gosh. She says, babe, the cops want you to take a pic of the stairs. Can you call them with your mom at least so you don't look bad? I know you don't care, but nothing incriminating. Oh my God, you guys. He said, get his number. My mom will call him. And then she says, okay, bet. He gave me the number. And then she writes the number down, takes a picture and sends it. He says, and this was at 1/6/22 at 6:53 p.m. You guys, this is the thing. When you're listening to how the cops talk before they arrest her and charge her, they too sound like she's not going to get arrested. There's a few times that the cops even insinuate that they were like had their back type thing. So Dom isn't wrong by saying that they might be lying, but she probably should have contacted his mom at least and had her call them. So, and again, not for any other reason than just the fact that she's so young, she doesn't know what's going on. He says, do you want chicken wings? I made some pizza. I made some Zaza. This is at 9:30 p.m. She says, I'm about to sleep. Send a pic. And he says, I got you when I'm done. FaceTime. Well, Will has only been playing love songs. And then she says, why? And he says, he's playing Marvin's Room right now. I don't know. That's what he's got for FW. And then it says, it's so funny. Drake and shit, he's got me dead. And she writes, laughing my effing ass off. I just bled. Who? What? She said, I just bled with Hannah, hard AF. And then she says, I just removed her comment because of Kendall's shit. And he said, you should just post that thing of the Down syndrome girl on TikTok. She'll know. And then Mackenzie says, nah. You guys, I have her TikTok account. What the heck? She says, nah, I'm going to just keep the high road. And he says, I feel it. And then he says, what are you doing? This is on 1/7 at 2:53 p.m. She says, nothing right now. Peeing. LOL. I'll FaceTime you when I'm in my room. Fort. Or want to go shopping? And he says, shopping. I'm with Will right now. Want to show you couches. She said, oh, where are you? Show me. Did you guys call? Please get it handled. It's stressing me out. I think she means the cops. And he said, I don't know. I'll ask her. And then he says, what are you doing now? This is at 5:30 p.m. She says, chilling. He says, want to go to the mall? She says, right now? He says, yeah, I'm free now. Or we can go in a little. And then she sends, it looks like a picture of her holding a handbag. And then she says, day one of not having this bag. And then he said, this is not going to be a thing. And then she says, oh, they redacted it. And then they redacted what he said. They redacted what she said. They redacted again. And then he said, you're a red flag. And she said, no, I'm a Leo. And he said, maybe you should just go lesbian. What? Where are my lesbians at? The entire chat. What's up? He's telling her to go lesbian, you guys. He wants her to jump ship. I wrote down in my notes because I've been reading her Instagram because I have all of that too. And the reason I looked at this is because of something I just read. What did I read? I wrote, oh, first of all, she contacts Skims, Kim Kardashian's, and tells them that they need petite models like her. And like over and over is like, you need petite models like me. You need petite models like me. Then she has a whole thing with TikTok where she freaks out, but that's something different. Oh, I know what I was going to say. She just said she's a Leo. The reason I stopped to do this is because I seen in her Instagram, she's like, I never met a Cancer female that I like. Meanwhile, I'm Cancer. My birthday's June 27th. I was like, whatever. And she says, he says, you're a red flag. And she says, no, I'm a Leo. And he said, maybe you should just go lesbian. And she said, why? And he said, no reason. I just thought it was funny. And she said, go gay. And he said, give me a baby first. Wait, I have a question real quick. This has nothing to do with being gay. I'm just literally quite curious. If you tell your boyfriend to go gay and his response is give me a baby first, I don't know. He says Lizzo eats Oreos with mustard on them. She said, what the F? What? And then she sends a picture of the bag again. And she says, day 2. And he says, are you off to work yet? I don't know how much that bag costs or where to get it. Help me out. Maybe you'll get it. And she said, are you coming to our family Christmas at my aunt's? Meanwhile, it's the 8th of January. She says, I'm off. And he said, when is it? She said 3. And he said, want to play Fortnite? And she said, yes, LOL. We have to take a COVID test though. And he said, okay, should I just not go? And then he says, I'll probably just not go then. I'm only coming for you. And if you're going to be like that, I guess I'll just not go. And he said, what? Question mark, question mark. And then another question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. Are you coming? Yes or no? And he said, when do we have to leave? And she said, 2:45 maybe. He says, yeah, let me get dressed and eat breakfast. And then he says, do you have both POFs? Oh, pods. He corrects himself. Do you have both pods? And she said, okay. And one, wait, yes, it's empty though. And then she sends a picture of it. And he says, no, my luster. You don't have the luster? And she said, I have it. Only one of them though. And then sends another picture. And he says, okay, it's not empty, right? And she said, nope. And he says, what should I wear? Jeans or a polo tracksuit? And she says, where you at? Polo. And he said, about to be on the way right now. She says, come on the phone with Kristen. And he says, I'm here. Do you want to take my car? Because it's really almost warmed up. And she says, what? And he said, my car is warm. Do you want to take my car so we don't freeze? And she said, come now, COVID test. And he said, on Fort? And she says, I'm sleepy. He says, that's fine. So wait, let me look. Is it like a new time now? Yeah, so that was at 2:51. So right before, so they take their COVID test. And then it picks up again the next day at 9:05 p.m. So I'm assuming that they probably were together from 3 o'clock the afternoon the day before, because there's no way they would go a whole day. And then he says on Fort, and she said, I'm sleepy. He says, that's fine. Good night, babe. Love you. Text me tomorrow. And then she sends a picture of her half asleep and she says, I love you. And then he says, cute. And then she says, Kendall is awake and out of the hospital. Wow. This is at 10 a.m. on 1/10/22. And she said, going into physical therapy. He says, that's good. As if, is she talking to anyone? And Kenzie says, I don't know. And then Dom says, see, that was quick, 10 days and she's already out. Bradbury said 3 weeks she'll be totally fine. Kenzie says, yeah, they're trying to get whoever picked her up out of the house in trouble. And then he said, it was Davion. What? And then, wow, he just threw Davion right under the bus. Holy crap. And then, wow. I'm like speechless. That's crazy. He literally says it was Davion. Oh my gosh. And she sends, wait, hold on. She says, just him? And he says, yeah, this is exactly what happened. After everyone was shaking her, I pulled her back, forward, up straight, because they literally had her head leaning back. Then Davion picked her up and brought her up the stairs. Remember, he had blood on him, and she sends a picture of text messages. You guys, I've never heard any of this. He said, dude, every famous person ends up being a full-blown drug addict for real. And she says, it's so sad and scary. And he says, but yeah, thinking of him in all the Full House episodes, being a drug addict is crazy. And she says, sad AF, and then sends a picture of text messages. And he says, Cedar Point, what the F? I know cashless was coming. And she said, so thank you, gay. And he says, tell her this is why you should have gotten crypto. And she says, I'm hungry, babe. And he said, want to get gas when I'm back from Jared's? And she says, yes, I'm with Nat and Hope. And then she says, Don's Lighthouse. And he says, lit, bet. And she says, or someone gas, send ideas. And then she sends like something. It's like a screenshot. And he said, I'll look, let me see. She then sends a Yelp thing. And then she sends like some pictures. They're like Yelp reviews. And then she says, let me know. Nat wants snow crabs. Oh, you know what, you guys? At 17 or 16 or 17, however old they are, snow crabs, really? We got McDonald's. We still do. I'm a 47-year-old with a palate of a 6-year-old. I do like pizza, French fries, chicken nuggets. Anyway, my fancy is like I put on things. That's about it. So she says, back to this. What one do you like better? Because I'm down for both. Question mark, question mark. And then she sends, oh, I'm starving. She sends pictures of all this food. And she says, Nat just wants broke people shit. Ha, I'm Nat. Nat just wants broke people shit. So we have to go there. Good job answering. Like, what the F? Like, the I need to pull up right now. 5 seconds to call me back or we will have issues. And he said, just text me. She says 5 seconds to call me back or we're done. And he says, yeah, I'll have whatever place. I don't care. She said, no, you not coming. And he said, nah, you're acting crazy right now, babe. And she said, I'm on the way to your house. You can be respectful to me or we are breaking up today. Make up your mind. And he said, bruh, you do anything to my house, I'm going to actually have to get someone involved. And she said, get someone involved. And he said, you're being way more disrespectful to me. She says, laughing my ass off. I don't care. And he said, think, babe, for real, just think. And she said, I'll send a pic of the stairs. Then if you want to get someone involved, what? Then she says, like, are you good? When you call or text, when I call or text, you answer. And he said, we are breaking up. And she said, honestly, I'd be on the way home if I were you right now. And he said, you're not going to threaten me with this shit like that. And she says, because you're not going to do this shit around your friends. And he says, that's way too crazy. What the F? You're just going to get my mom sued. And she said, you literally threatened me first, buddy. And then emphasized, bro, do you do anything to my house? And I'm actually get someone involved. And then she said, get someone involved? I'd be on the way home if I were you. Or we're breaking up. And he said, nah, I said, if you F some shit at my house up, I'll have to get someone involved. There's still holes in my house from last time. What? She said, this is not how it works. You are not allowed to be shady, especially since you're a cheater and you're sneaky AF. And he said, chill for real. And she said, then I'll have to send a pic down of the stairs. What? Oh my gosh, you guys, this is literally like 4 or 5 months before the accident. She said, if you have to get someone involved, see how this game works? So do you want to try this? You want to try this all again? Oh my God, she is ballsy. He says, bruh, you're the one trying to F up my house. Don't F up my house. Like for real, what the F? And she says, or are you going to keep doing little pussy stuff and not talk to your girlfriend, acting like you're on a perk? You're acting like you're on a perk. Wow. If you guys remember last night and the night before, he talks about taking a Percocet for pain. So now this is 2 years later. And she says, so are we trying this again? And he said, I'll talk to you when you respect me. I can't be with you ever or anyone who will get police involved. And she said, okay, I'm going to just take some money from the cart box. I can't ever be with someone who puts their friends before me. And he said, do whatever you want. And she said, and who acts high on the phone? And he said, I wasn't. She said, I'm going to. And he said, he was showing me speakers and they were bumping loud as F. And she said, I don't care. Oh my gosh, she's horrible. She said like 0%. Do you guys remember last 2 nights? She said that he gives or that he puts in 0% effort. I think that's what she's referring to. She says, you're on the way home though, right? And he said, went and grabbed my phone across the room. Actually, Cusby seen my screen light up. And she said, you would be mad. Dumb for real. I wouldn't want to lose my girlfriend of 3 years. And he says, yeah, I'm coming to my car. What? And she says, you know, and he says, nah, you tripping. You know, I'm the realest person ever. No one keeps it 100 like me. You tripping to be trying to be on that. And she said, you're really not. You pick and choose when you want to be. It's either all or nothing. All about because we don't do this in between shit. And he said, you're tripping. You know that guy. And she said, nah, you pick and you want to. You're not that guy today. Oh, he said, I'm that guy. She says, you're not that guy today. Yesterday is not the same as you are right now. I'm going to Samuel, for real, we need to talk because this isn't going to keep going on. And then she says, when I text you, answer. She says, when I call you, answer. Then he says, Kenzie, who's the girl that fell, Kenzie, when you call me on some bullshit, I'm not talking. Oh, no, he's calling her Kenzie. Duh. Kenzie, when you call me on some bullshit, I'm not going to talk to you. She said, if you're that deaf, then keep your phone on, bruh. And he says, and if you're not answering for 5 minutes, you need to chill. Or if he's not answering for 5 minutes, she needs to chill. And she says, it's on you 24/7 when you're with me. And he said, I don't do that to you. And she says, so why is this not with you when you're with your friends? And then all in caps, she writes, because answer laughing my effing ass off. And then she writes like question mark. And he says, nah, it goes both ways. You see me ignore hella people with you too. And she said, all in caps, you are not allowed to ignore me. Are you dumb? Oh my gosh, you guys. Like, I know you didn't just text me that. Like, are you for real? You better figure this out. This is a problem. And he said, I don't ignore you. I was saying I ignore hella people when I'm chilling with you. So we not even going to eat? You just want me to be okay for you? Because now you got bread from the card stack, right? Oh, she took money. She said, you're actually slow as shit. Don't even text me. Like, for real, you are lame as F. Leave how to text your girl better. This is such a shame. And he said, I mean, you're going to Samari now and making me go home, question mark. Like, that's kind of just crazy. You wanted me to come home. Should I even go home? And she said, oh, so you didn't even leave? You lied about that? And he said, I'm in my car. And she said, I thought you were walking to your car 10 minutes ago. Yeah, I'm sure you were. And he said, why are you trying to make it like this now? Don't change the subject. And she says, I'm not. Why would you come now? You were just being a dick and you were 40 minutes away. So why would we wait 40 minutes just for you to come back? And he said, you called me crazy, talking crazy. And she says, what? And he said, you called me talking crazy first. She says, because you don't know how to answer the phone. We're going to go over this again, question mark. And he said, whatever. And she says, you need to keep your phone on you if you're that bad at replying. Like, what the F? And he said, go out to eat, I guess. And she says, I wanted to watch, oh my gosh, she wants to watch Euphoria with you tonight, but F that. He says, you're being a control freak. Look, go do your thing. I'm going to do mine. We'll talk later. She says, nah, I'm cool. Just keep ignoring me. You're so good at that. He says, I'm going to go check how long it took me to answer you. I missed one call. So it took 2 calls for me to answer. Why are you even mad? Look, just talk to me for real. I can't believe he's saying this. And then she says, get me Sheets hot cocoa on the way home. Oh my gosh, here she goes with her hot milk. And then she says, is this a joke or something? Like, and wait, she writes or something, or, and then the word SUM, and then the word thing. What? She says, like, are you taking this long to reply? Is this a joke? Because I wouldn't do that literally 3 hours after you just did the same shit. And he says, I'm doing some right now, SUM, and then RN. I'm doing some right now. Then I'll go get it. It won't be long. And she said, it would be dumb as F. Oh, so you did see me. And he said, you're tripping. She says, you're just ignoring again. Like, what's so important right now? What are you doing that's that important as F? And he says, nah, I just opened my phone to text you back and you were texting. And she says, yeah, I'm sure. I'm not believing that for real. He says, I just pulled in front of somewhere and had to unlock a box out of my trunk and then unlock my house. Look, let me do my thing and I'll get you the chocolate. You tripping for real. She says, when? Oh my gosh. He says, I'm about to go to Sheets. And she says, what are you doing? Oh, that's what WYD is. What are you doing? And then she says, I don't know what that word is, and I'm afraid to say it wrong. And then he says, just played some Spygate with Blair, about to eat some pizza. What's up with you, babe? So we're now at 1:10, which I think we were at still before, but it's 10 p.m. She says, they just left. And he said, were you all just painting that whole time? And she said, yes, I'm done now. And he said, what did y'all paint? She said, next time you go to Jared's, text me so that me and Kendall can come. And he said, it depends on what we're doing, but for show. I remember that from yesterday. She says, want to go get something to eat from one of those places, question mark, and then start sending him a bunch of pictures. And he says, yeah, when? And she sends more pictures. And then she says, right now. And he said, I'm in Cleveland right now. Okay. And then he says, want to go for dinner? And she said, no, I want to go right now. Then watch Euphoria. And he says, babe, I literally haven't even showered. I've had so many plays and my mom had me take her to the pet store because of her stomach. And she says, is she okay? And he says, I need to at least get back and shower for real. And then she says, I guess I'll get Shinto now. And then he says, she's in hell. He said she's in hell of pain, meaning his mom. And then Mackenzie says, is she home? He says, I don't know. I'm in Cleveland. And she said, what should I eat since you're just in Cleveland? Question mark. Never mind. And he says, ew. She says, okay. He said, I bought you a little pink laser. About to come tomorrow. And she said, no way. Yeah. And he said, yeah, I think it was only like $30. And she says, no way. And he said, I was going to get you a straight stun gun. She says, I'm so excited. I'm going to tase you. And he says, that can shoot from like 15 feet. She says, for real? Why didn't you? And he said, nah, you're not going to tase me. And he says, it was like $350. She says, oh, I am. And he said, and I ordered the other shit that I needed because I don't know what's going on with the $600 IRS thing or what all that applies to. And she says, he may have just been close, but I feel like AJ tried to shoulder check me in the hallway today. And he says, try and keep me online spending low. Now I'll order it another time. AJ's gross, he says. He probably is just being dumb, though. And she said, he was so close to shoulder check shit at me. I don't know if he was trying to do it on purpose. And then he says, I don't care. He might not F with us, though, because he unfollowed me. And she says, and me. So this dude unfollowed them. And then he says, yeah, that's weird. And he said, I'm about to shower, though. Talk to you after. And she says, what are you doing? This is now 1:11 at 5:30 p.m. She says, want to watch Euphoria with popcorn? And he says, I know I'm probably saying that wrong. I say it wrong all the time. My daughters make fun of me. He said, yeah, bet. Waiting on Sean to get here. Then I'll come over. She says, okay, bet. He says, and then he loved, okay, bet. And then she says, come in soon. And he questioned what she said. And she said, I meant coming soon. And he said, oh, you coming over? Will's here. And she said, yes. And he said, so then she writes text. He writes curly fries and chicken sliders. Oh, I'm starving. That sounds so good. And then she sends an attachment. And then she says, what are you doing? This is 1:12. I'll do like 10 more minutes and then we'll stop. Or in a couple of minutes. We'll go to like the next day or whatever. And then he said, I just did a couple plays. Now I'm chilling with my mom and dad. What's up? And she says, is your mom okay? He says, not really. She says, what's going on? He said, she's getting through it though. And then Mackenzie writes a bunch of question marks. And he said, she just can't really eat anything and feels sick and in pain. Mackenzie says, is she acting normal? He says, what do you mean? She's just been sick and in like 3 blankets on the couch. And Mackenzie says, oh, she's not even up. That's so effed. And he says, now she's up only to feed Nico. I think that is, no, the brother's Chris, sorry. She says, I'm dead. And he says, what are you doing, babe? And she says, do you see a pen? A white battery? He said, no, I'll check though. She said, nothing so far. He says, no, I haven't seen anything. I only looked for a second though. I'll look again in a second. Then she says, babe. He says, babe. She says, they want me to take the video down. I'm about to be so pissed. Like it wasn't posted during school hours. And he said, is there any way you can archive like Insta? And she said, can your mom defend you trying to suspend me for 3 days if I didn't take it down? And he said, what is she going to do? Plus, she's super sick. I don't know if she's even up. Just make your account private for a couple of days and say you deleted it. And she says, I'm so mad. Like, I'm so mad. I effing hate the school. And he said, I'm surprised it went that far and didn't get taken down. And she said, I don't care. I'm about to talk to your mom right now. Meanwhile, she's sick. And then she writes, Collins, I'm so mad. And he says, maybe just try to say Aubrey bullied you and that you want her suspended. What? She says, oh, I am. He says, she copies all your clothes as a taunt. And then she says, I am. And then he likes it. And he says, the laser's here. And she said, oh my God, I want it. And he said, check snap, about to send a video. And she says, babe, can I please get it before Polaris? And can I take the pen? Because I'm getting sage for your house. And he said, no, you can't take that to Polaris. Why do you need sage again? And she said, babe, please, the pen. And then she says, because I want them. Your house has negative energy. I feel it. It's weird, but we can fix it. And he said, the taser to Polaris or the pen? And she says, both. He says, just hit the bong and smoke it after. The pens are almost gone. And she said, I'm going shopping after Polaris. He says, no laser at Polaris. And she says, just the pen. And he says, come on, I want the pen too, babe. You've had it more than me. She says, please. And then he says, I can't let you take all the pens. Let me get more at least. And then she says, cart, ? Please, babe. He says, do you have any left? I thought you had hella empty ones. And they're all gone. He said, I might have a cart here somewhere. I don't know. You have to look though. She says, let me know. I'm on the way. He said, okay, I'll look. Found one. It's a good one too. She said, yay, bring it out. Kurt and Karina's shoes too. And then he says, let me know when you're here. She says, okay, please give me my taser, babe. She said taser instead of laser. I won't get in trouble. And he said, no, you don't need it at school. You shouldn't be bringing one to Polaris. And she said, I want to after school. And he said, the cart is easy to hide. She says, layered. And then she says, here. He says, yeah, I'm not going to let you threaten people with a taser. So then he writes taser. So he gets her that $350 taser. What? And she says, love you. He says, I'll give it to you, but you got to promise me you won't take it to school because you already got caught with brass knuckles. Wow. She said, wow, I was young as F. Meanwhile, she's 17. He says, why ain't you answering? I got the stripper pole down. Trying to show you this. Want to come to Jared Sunday for crab boil? Oh, that sounds delicious too. And I'm not even eating all that. And then he says, do you like shrimp too? And she says, yes. And then she sends attachments. He says, don't you need a picture too? What if I took mushrooms and did some virtual reality shit? And she said, we not doing the same. And I'm down. He said, I think I'm making crab legs tonight if you want some. Need to make the chicken wings, so I'm going to just do those crab legs. She says, bruh, I just got my hair burnt off with a hot comb. Like, I'm about to cry. I can smell it. And he says, what happened? Does it look bad? And she said, yes, very bad. And he said, let me see. So then she sends a picture and it's literally like a tiny piece on her head. He said, it's probably fine. That doesn't even look like a lot. And she says, I'm going to cry. And he said, I'd have to see it then when your hair is normal. I don't think anyone will even notice. She said, I'm about to freak out. Like, I can't. And then she sends another picture. And then he says, Kenzie, it's okay. Just see how it looks in a little bit. It'll grow back quick. She said, it won't. It's going to take over a year. And he said, go figure, right? In a year from now, she'll be in jail. He says, and he'll be deceased, unfortunately. He said, there's a chance you won't even notice when your hair's dry. She said, I don't know. It's up right now. So you can't tell. When are you going to want to watch? And why? Oh, I guess she means the show. And why does Will have to come? ? He said, I'm home now getting wings ready. Will bought all the wings. And she said, we can't watch Euphoria when he's there? ? And he said, he hasn't HMU in so long. I think he means like hang out. He said, I don't even know if he's coming now. And she said, who? And he said, Will. He said, he HMU this morning. He probably fell asleep or something. And then she says, or are you making them right now? Can we make pasta too? ? He said, I'm making wings right now. what kind of pasta? She said, can you make pasta too? I'm coming over now. Any? And he said, we can do my mom's Alfredo recipe. Oh my God, I'm starving. She says, I just want pasta. Actually, we can do that. Just starving. I want food right now. And he said, come over and help me. I'll get it done ASAP. She says, I'm about to come. Just start. He said, just got to make sure we have everything for Alfredo. And then she sends a whole bunch of attachments, like a lot, pages worth. And then she says, literally, though, what the F? I really need to never act. You really need to never act like that around me, or it will cause an issue. She's writing all crazy. Then she says, like, for real, why did perk 30 mood just kick in? What? Like, do you just act like that when I'm not around? He says, look, let's just talk, babe. She says, well, not just going to push this shit under the rug. I'm for real over it. Like, we can't even chill alone. We'll just asleep on your couch snoring. Like, we can't even cuddle. Get your shit together for real. He says, meanwhile, they're in the same house. He says, you weren't mad about that at first, but okay. Yeah, it was his wing. So I told him earlier. She said, I'm mad about it. And he said, about what? He says, and yeah, I wanted to call Blair about the pic and some sales. That's not a big deal though. And she says, that's why you have issues, dumbass shit. God damn. And then I don't like saying that. And then she sends screenshots and she says, I want to go to the Boardwalk Mall today. Literally, wake up. It's 1:15 at 9:07 a.m. Wake up. What the F? Are you for real still sleeping? And then she says, like, is this a joke? Like, I'm mad. Then she sends, what the F? And then a bunch of question marks. And he says, no, I'm not. And she said, you sounded like you just woke up to me. And he said, what did you want to go do again? And she said, my mom's getting rid of who? Oh, my mom is getting rid of baby Scoob and Charlotte. I want to go to the beach wood. Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. Did you do drugs? Oh, I meant rugs. Did you do rugs or something last night? And he said, he questioned that her mom's getting rid of the thing. And he said, edibles. I need a coffee to wake me up. And she said, we can get Starbucks when we go. And he said, I need it right now. I'm about to make a cup. And she says, Kay, it's almost like you're trying to piss me off right now. And he said, yeah, I wasn't to at all. She says, okay. So are we going, or do you need another 4 hours? Like, you didn't even say anything about me giving my pigs away. Like, what the F? And he says, I'm tired as F. So she has pigs and the mom's getting rid of them. She says, yeah, let's just not hang. Oh, that's a first. He said, yeah, coffee's brewing. Give me a bit. Okay. And she says, you're for real, unreal, and dry as F. Oh, here she goes again. I'm going to just start writing shit down. He says, writing what down? Are we actually not good? And she says, are you going to be tired all day? Because I'm not dealing with that shit. He says, no, I'm drinking coffee right now. I'm getting in the shower now. The coffee helped too. What are you wearing? And she says, Skims maybe. That's funny because I told you guys a little bit ago she contacted them. He said, what color? I'm about to get dressed. I'll match you if I can. And then she sends a pic. She says, we bringing Taquanda? And he said, oh, damn, I don't know if I got anything to match with that. And bet that's cool. And she said, I'll change then. And he said, what I want to do, babe, you can wear that. And she said, what are you wearing? And he said, I don't know. Are you wearing the blue? If so, I'm gonna just wear some jeans. If you wear that outfit, cream color, I can match you. Actually, I could match the blue, I think. And she says, come with the pen. He says, getting money and bud ready. She says, ask your mom if she wants baby, hurry and come. And he said, I'll ask her. She says, hurry right now. And he said, okay, 1 second. She said, I want her to have baby, but he needs love. Oh, so that's like insinuating she's not going to give him love. And he says, I kind of want to change real quick. And then he says, would you care? And she says, hurry. He said, I feel like I'm wasting this outfit. And she said, what? And he said, I feel like I'm wasting this fit. And then she says, why? Who cares? When else are you going to wear it? And he said, I don't know. Fine, I'll just wear it. She said, we can take pics. He said, my hair didn't come out good. I'm salty AF, for real. She said, send pics. He said, send. She said, snap, ? He says, yeah. She says, can you butt then? And then she said, I mean, buy. Look at this. So she asks him if he can buy this for her. And he said, where should we eat? She says, I don't know. My stomach hurts. I want good bread. He said, I don't know where to get good bread. Let me think. We could just go to the Olive Garden. Oh my God, my stomach just growled. He said, mozzarella sticks and breadsticks. She says, oh, I love them. She says, I don't know, maybe. He says, when would you want to go? She says, whenever. He said, should I look for somewhere else to go? She says, sure. Town Hall. He said, isn't that way far? I heard Outback has really good bread. They do, and they have good butter. She says, Luca, well, they have good salad too. She says, I'm down. And he said, you're saying you down for Luca or Outback? She said, either. I don't care. And he said, when do you want to go? I got a play in Lakewood. She said, go where? He said, out to eat. She said, I said whenever, like 30 minutes ago. And then she questioned whenever. And he said, okay, I'm about to do this play. Then we can go when I get back. She says, okay, can we just go to Shinto? He said, yeah, of course. She says, okay, I'm ready to come. And then she says, what's your ETA? He says, 25 minutes till I'm back. She said, how long? And he said, 6 minutes now. And she said, how long? And he said, where? And she said, long. And he said, about to pull in here. And then let's see, what time was that? Oh, so that's still going. So he says, are you up? And she says, yes. And he said, I almost want to just come back over. Oh, I guess he went and then came back. And she said, you can if you want. He said, I went home and just went straight to bed, but I didn't even sleep good for real. My neck kind of hurt. She said, should I post on TikTok right now and come? He said, yeah, post. It's cold. I don't know if I want to come. She said, I don't know. I posted. He said, I'm in this weird mood where I'm kind of mad and just want to chalk everything and restart. She says, what do you mean? He said, that's the only way I can explain it. She said, chalk what? Like me? And he said, my whole life. No. She said, then restart today. And he said, what do you mean? She says, I'm a new me all the time. Like, I'll show you pics where that's not even me anymore, but it's not bad. And he said, not like that. She said, like, and he said, that's not what I meant. Just forget it, for real. Unlock the door. I'ma come. And she says, okay, are you coming or not? Is your door unlocked? ? And he said, no. Should I unlock it? And she said, yeah. Oh, so then I guess she goes to his house. She says, she's telling Kendra you tried to F her. She said, are you fucking with that fat B? I'm going to need to see the messages between y'all. For real, for real. I'm sus right now. Oh, see, I was going to be done, but now I got to read this. He said, bruh, Kenzie, I would never F that B. Chill. She's texting me that now. And then Mackenzie says, the test better be on your phone when I'm here. The text, I think she meant. Better be on your phone when I'm there. And then he says, she's saying, you was trying to F me. And then Mackenzie says, they better be there. And he says, when are you coming? Bradbury's about to be here, and he's only going to be here for a second. You want me to just screen record the shit? And she said, no, don't open anything. And he said, I already did before I saved them all. And she said, what the F? Why did you do that? See, now I'm definitely sus. Why did you open the text when I told you not to? Question mark. Oh, he should have said, just like I told you not to talk to the cops. He says, because she said, you was trying to F me. Like, I guess, like, screw him over. And then Mackenzie says, bro, like, I will believe her. You're making yourself look bad. And he says, bruh, what the F? That B is like 200 pounds. You're actually making me mad. What the F? Oh, I don't like that at all. Then Mackenzie says, why are you getting defensive? You're making me mad. I'm allowed to be sussed out when someone says you tried to F them. And he said, Kenzie, that B is a psycho. She says, okay. He said, if some weird F like that said you tried to F him, I wouldn't believe them. She said, yeah, you still open everything after I say don't. So why would I believe you saved everything? Question mark. He said, because you look at my phone. And she said, probably because I never cheated. So I wouldn't expect to feel that way. Like, are you serious? And he said, I'm honestly so done. You can't be thinking I'd want to F fat bees. Oh, I don't like that. Or even be insecure about her. Like, that shit is fried. And she said, I'm not insecure, laughing my ass off. He said, don't get me all worked up because a fat, crazy bee said I was trying to F her. If I was trying to F her, that girl would have F'd me in a heartbeat. Damn, mic drop. She says, calm down, bud. He said, nah, I'm sick of this bullshit. I actually don't do shit, and you go crazy on me over the dumbest shit. She says, fine, I'll believe you. What? If I find out it's true, there will be an issue. And he said, FaceTime me. Let's play a game of Fortnite. She says, okay. So I think I'm going to stop there. So let me see. So it is 1:16. Oh no, wait, hold on. Let me see. It's like in the middle of the day. Hold on, I'll finish the day out. He says, yeah, I have higher standards than that. Was like offering me for real. That's like saying I'd wear Skechers or something. He says, out of the shower if you want to play Fortnite. And she said, I'm bored. He said, when we go into Luca's. She says, what time do you think? He said, do you want to just leave at 4:30 so we could get there at 5? She says, did you call? He said, about what, the vaccine? I thought your mom was going to. I can call if you want. And she said, bruh, it's not even open yet. Why are you trying to go right now? She has to wait till 5 to call. And he said, it opens at 5. She said, because they're not open. So why would we leave at 4:30? What if they say no at 5? And he said, okay. She says, what are you wearing? And then he sends a pic. And then he says, right now I'm wearing this. Let's try to get there as early as possible, though, because it's going to snowstorm at 7 and we don't want to be driving. And then he says, you're crazy. And she says, you can't think that. I don't really care. That affects you more than it affects me. I'm just going to stay home. You can find someone else to go out to eat with. And he says, why? Like, who do you mean by that? Look, you're being crazy right now. I'll talk to you in a little bit. And if you still want to go, we can. She said, I'm cool. And then he says, but don't get mad at me for doing plays when I spent over $400 on you this weekend and you're mad about 20 to 30 minutes. Like, that's hella spoiled for real. And tonight would be another $100+ Like, let me make my money, babe. It's going to snowstorm later. So I couldn't do it then. And then he says, you for sure don't want to go. And she said, I'm not that hungry, thanks. And he said, it's about to start snowstorming anyway. And then she sends TikToks and then she sends more stuff. Oh, wait, are we at the end? Hold on, of the day? Yes. So, oh no, because she says, okay, cool, don't come. Okay, so we're going to pick up again at 1:17:22. I'm going to write that down. So 1:17:22. And we started at 1:1:22. So that way I can properly label it. I'm going to come over here now. Wouldn't that be crazy if I came over here and there was like no thing going on because I haven't been able to look? I would have died. Sarah, you guys, unfortunately, I'm not able to see it when I'm reading it. So I really don't see any other messages other than Sarah's. She said, is Dom Italian like the donkey? Sarah, you're nuts. Dominic Russo, I think so. I don't know, what other ethnicities he might be, but yes, I believe he's Italian. Does anybody have any like last minute questions? Because I'm for real, as Kenzie would say, starving and need to fall asleep. True says plays with the equals, plays equals rug deals. Plays equals, they're also being little burglars too. They found burglary tools in her car. Yeah, you want to hear something? I have the video of them breaking into the church. Harlot says, which donkey is Italian? Oh, Harlot, you don't know the song Chickadee Ching, he honk, it's Dominic the donkey, the Italian Christmas donkey. Come on. True said Wawa soup. I want to cry. I'm so hungry. Okay, look, you guys. I need to get back up. I have a class that starts at 8, so I have to be up. And my daughter made me a baked potato. Isn't she the best? And I'm going to go eat it. So Harlot says, I guess not. Harlot, it's Dominic. Dominic the donkey. You have to look it up. All right, let's see. All right, so you guys, I'm going to go. Thank you all for being here with me. We will do this again, but tomorrow night at 9 o'clock, I will be on with Drunk Turkey, and we are going back to Bryan Kohberger. So make sure you join. We're going to talk about all his creepy photos that just been coming out, but we're going to talk about Kohberger again, which I actually can admit that I not miss Bryan Kohberger, obviously, but I miss talking about that whole thing. I haven't talked about it in a while. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow night, and I hope I see all of you there. Please subscribe, share with your grandma, your mom, your sisters, anyone that wants to listen. I appreciate all of you so much. Thank you for joining me tonight. Good night, everyone.
Please subscribe, and share if you enjoyed this so that I can continue to bring you content. Thank you so much.